Welcome to Wealth Preservation Solutions. I'm Elizabeth DeLeo, Director of Family Offices. Kevin Ellman CFP, who is our CEO of Wealth Preservation Solutions, and I are here today to talk to you about some timely topics. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, what our clients, I think, are catching on to is that we actually are like this pretty much every day, all day, right?
This is
So
it.
even though you've never seen me in person,
Not in real life, no.
we spend a lot of time this way. And, we agreed a few weeks ago that, there are a lot of things that are happening that are very important. And we're starting to see some trends and questions that our clients and partners alike are asking us. And so here we are again this week to talk about some of those things. So Kevin, what's on your mind this week?
Well, it's not so much what's on my mind, but what kind of, questions do clients ask during our meeting this week? So right now, people really want to try to understand, what's happening with the economy, what's going to happen with the election, and then a lot of people have been asking about gold. So we'll talk about all of those.
Okay.
So interestingly enough, it seems a little bit counterintuitive. Right now, the consumer is actually doing pretty well. Retail expenditures are up, savings rate is up, and debt levels are actually down. So the consumer is strong and they're outspending and they're really kind of supporting the positive movement of the economy. But it's not going to be, a straight up path. It is kind of choppy right now. There are parts of the economy which are doing well. E-commerce is doing well. Home building is strong. Warehouses are doing well. Autos are selling like crazy. There are a lot of job openings that can't be filled. And at the same time, leisure, restaurants, hospitality, hotels, travel, air, those areas are soft. So it's kind of a mix. And even though it looks like the leading indicators are up and that 2021 is going to be a better year, it's really this tug of war between shutdowns versus stimulus, which is going to determine, how it's going to go.
Right. And, if you're driving a boat out in open seas, right, and you have a GPS, it may tell you which ways to go versus which ways not to go, where the choppy waters may exist more than not. So can you just spend a minute on, what the leading indicators are and how those, and really what we can do as consumers to pay close attention to them?
Well, it's a good analogy that you give. I like to think of the U.S. economy as this giant, aircraft carrier. And it takes a long time to change direction. If an aircraft carrier wants to go that way, it could take an hour to turn around. So it's the same thing with the U.S. economy. So, and that relates to, the election, because lots of people are wondering, well, maybe I should wait till after the election before I invest, and what's going to happen if one party wins, what's going to happen if the other party wins. And all the research I have done has shown that whether it's going to be a Republican win or a Democratic win, the economy really wants to know that there's going to be some certainty. And it sure looks like the stock market's going to increase after the election, wants to really kind of know what to expect. And it's not a lot of difference between one party or the other. So I'm not inclined to wait for the results. With people who are willing to go along with it, we're staying invested. And we are expecting that post-election, once we have a result, we're going to see, positive growth, even though it'll be uneven, but we see positive growth to the end of this year. And next year, we think next year is going to be a better year.
Well, this year, I would really hope that next year does not face the same challenges that we ultimately faced this year. Even coming into the year, though we didn't know, now we're able to look back and say, wow, whoa, really, it was really, really a major, major impact that COVID-19 has had on all aspects of the world. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I really do hope that we can remain hopeful and optimistic and an upward climb through the end of the year and for the remainder of 2021. So right now, you had mentioned that you had been asked a few times about gold and, should I buy gold? Should I not buy gold? And I've been in some of those conversations where some of them have been kind of jokingly, right? But I think there's some behind that around, again, what should I do and what's the safest for me, which obviously there's a lot of individuality there. We'll just, be very open about that. But let's talk a little bit about.
Gold is generally regarded as an inflation protection and as a hedge against political unrest. So those two things. In terms of just supply and demand, that doesn't seem to be the major driver. So if people expect a high inflation, then they tend to invest in gold, or could be real estate or other hard assets. And in that case, gold has been in the past a decent inflation hedge. But at the moment, we don't really see inflation on the horizon in the immediate future. We think the economy, while it's going to creep forward, it's creeping. It's not growing dramatically. There's going to be a lot of growth. I don't see a lot of inflation. So from that, on that score, I don't see it right now. Then as a hedge against political unrest, well, we might have a little bit of unrest here post-election. I don't think it's going to be a civil war. And frankly, if we did have a civil war, I'd rather buy penicillin than gold.
Right.
Oh, so far,
numb the pain.
So far, there's no penicillin ETF, so we'll have to wait on that.
And it's not meant to be. We know that you are an ETF lover. So that's actually really helpful. And, we're really in this, what feels like purgatory almost, right? Because people want to make a decision, don't know which way to go, if there are any decisions to be actually made. So this is just kind of the status quo over the next 2 weeks or 3, depending on, when we actually have a decision, or we'll just leave that open-ended. But, assuming that there is an elected president as a direct result of election day voting, that, then I think that there's going to be, from what you're sharing and the insight that you've provided to us, and just overall, media, that there's going to be a nudge, right? A little nudge of decision making from a consumer perspective, because to your point, we don't like uncertainty, even though we may not agree with, or we may agree or disagree, support, not support, whatever the result is of the election, but everyone's going to be nudged just a little bit. Would you agree?
I do. And while I think the last half of the year will be positive, during this last week, I was preparing for 2 appointments, and one client had stayed invested throughout this crisis, and another client, basically freaked out and sold in the middle of March, and has stayed in cash ever since, thinking that they would time the market. Mm-hmm. So the people who didn't try to time the market to stay fully invested, they've now recovered 100% of their losses, and some of them are in positive territory. And the ones who attempted to time the market are still worried about what's going to happen, and they're scared to get back in.
Sure.
So they sold
you
at the
can't
bottom.
time it. Yeah.
And there's always something to be scared about. So right now they're scared about the election.
Sure.
So and instead of being even or positive, they're down 20%.
Right.
So timing the market is really a bad strategy, and particularly bad right now.
Right, exactly. And to your point, what you always say is, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Exactly.
I do listen to you, see?
Somebody's been paying attention.
I swear, this may or may not be an open book test. Well, Kevin, it's really fun hopping on with you once a week and just kind of talking about some things that we're hearing between client meetings and, anything that's going on in our world right now. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone before we bid our adieu?
Well, specifically, I think the thing on everybody's mind is the election. Yeah. And I think the major thing is, don't freak out. Don't make any sudden moves. Right. Let's wait and see what happens. And my sense of it is that we're going to see some positive movement after the election. So I would say sit tight.
Okay. Well, we will sit tight, and we will see everyone again in a week or two. For anyone who's watching, if you'd like to learn more about us here at Wealth Preservation Solutions, please visit our website at wealthpreservationsolutions.com, or you may text us. You may text WEALTH to 88799. And we very much look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. If there's any thoughts that you have that you would like to add as part of our discussion, please reach out to us. We're happy to include that. And till then, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay wealthy. Bye.
Bye.
For your free copy of Kevin's book, the 7 biggest money mistakes people make and how to avoid them, just text WEALTH to 88799.